Today, I'm sitting down with Bridget Como from Forensic Building Sciences. Bridget travels all over the country doing business development for an engineering firm, and we're going to get into how she balances it all. Travel, the grind, the relationships of being a busy mom. We're talking about sales and marketing and the mindset it takes to stay consistent when your job requires you to be everywhere all the time. This one's not theory, it's real talk from someone in the trenches every single day. Let's get into it. I am here with one of my favorite people in the industry. Most of you know that I work in the claims industry. I'm a public adjuster. Because most of us work alone, we have to wait for these networking opportunities or these conferences or things that we all show up to. And Bridget and I were just recently together in Florida at the FAPIA conference. What a good time that was.
About 2 weeks ago?
2, maybe 3, somewhere right around in there.
I don't know. It all blends together.
Yeah, it kind of all runs together. And we all work alone. We all work from home or we work from the road, and we don't get to see each other very often. And so it's always a good time when we get to hang out. And so Bridget just happened to be in Texas. She lives in Florida.
I do.
And but she just happened to be in Texas, and so we decided to chisel off some time and do the Undeniable podcast. Bridget, thanks for coming.
Woo-hoo, thanks for having me.
Man, I'm excited about this.
Me too.
You work for Forensic Building Sciences. We're not going to get in necessarily to what they do as much as we're going to get into what you do, but sort of kind of tell us a little bit, kind of a 30,000 foot view of how you got to the business development side of Forensic Building Sciences.
Yeah. So I've been with the company now 6 years. So I started really in kind of the admin operations for the company. And as I started to kind of learn and grow what we did and learn our clients and get to know who they were, the team was like, really, Bridget, you're really good at what you're doing, and you're very good at connecting with individuals. So why don't we just try? So I went to one conference. I think Windstorm was my first conference, and that's one with, both sides are there. It's very open. It's a little bit different than your typical like FAPIA, TAPIA, or whatever. And so I just started getting to know people, and I like to go into a room and get to know everyone in the room. And so I think it was just a natural progression. I have a lot of history of sales. So for me, it just kind of came natural.
What kind of sales did you do before?
So if we're going to go into that, my first job was Hot Topic at 16. So that was fun.
Best t-shirts anywhere, right? Any t-shirt that you want.
Oh my gosh.
From the 1983 Def Leppard tour. You could go get the t-shirt there.
Great music. I just remember going in there, and it was like all the, piercing and jewelry. And they're like, you can do whatever you want. You can have your hair whatever color you want. And I was like, that's peaceful. Like, there's no judgment, right?
Yeah.
So I started there. I went into working at a pawn shop for a while. So that was a pretty interesting turn of events. I was 18 years old. And
somebody hawking their VCRs so they can buy a pack of cigarettes, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It was very interesting, and I'm not a very big person, but I'm behind the counter and someone's bringing me, big tools, and I have to figure out how to test them to see if they work, to pawn them. So that was an interesting, very interesting situation. And then from there, I started working at a cell phone company in Delaware. So that was, one of the kiosks that you kind of people walk through at the mall. And, so I developed this tactic, and maybe I shouldn't tell the secret, but I took a pen and I would drop it and I would roll it, and it would fall over onto the ground, and someone would pick it up, and I would just start having conversations.
That is a dirty, dirty trick.
I know. I don't sell like that anymore. But again, I was 18 years old. I was young. It was, started from there. And then after that, I moved back to Minnesota, and I worked at Best Buy. So I was in sales for Best Buy, went and opened up a standalone Best Buy mobile store. So I did cell phones at a mall. Worked there for a little bit, and I was a stay-at-home mom for many years.
Now, that's a great job, right? You know what I mean?
It doesn't pay well.
No pay, no days off, right? No insurance benefits, no retirement plan. I mean, who doesn't want to do that?
Right? I mean, you have constant work. Like, there's no sick day. I was telling this to someone the other day. I'm like, you can't be sick. You're stuck. you can't go anywhere. You just have to figure it out, which I think actually helped me a lot in this industry because, I don't really get sick days, right? Like I got to keep working and keep doing things. So yeah, that was interesting. But I actually received my master's and I specialize in HR. So I think it's really helped with a kind of that sales analysis and like understanding people and the listening piece of it. That's where most people go wrong in sales. They don't listen to their customers. They just don't get it.
Right.
Right. So I've kind of had to learn that the hard way. I don't think I was a very good listener for many, many years. So.
Well, I mean, one of the things that you guys go up against, and I can, and I mean, from an anecdotal perspective, right? We as public adjusters fight engineering firms left, right, and center.
Yep.
And there are classes that you can take on how to defeat an engineering report. They have, how you file complaints against them, all of those things. Because most of the time when we've encountered an engineer's report, it's not a good thing. Right. It's not a real finding, it's certainly not congruent with the narrative that we're trying to propose. And so how do you separate yourself from the noise of all of that, especially because a lot of your stuff is done at conferences and a lot of your stuff and seminars, and there's a lot of people around and there's an echo chamber that sort of happens in that, and everybody's on a camp high, and it's sort of like, oh yeah, I'm going to call you. I'm going to use you. I can't tell you how many times I got somebody walked up to my table and said that to me at the Fab, and I'll never hear from them. Never ever hear from them. So
we hear a lot of it. We hear a lot of people go, oh, I need a new expert. I need this. I need a new expert for cases or whatever. And I think for me, I kind of take that with a grain of salt because you just never know if they really want an expert or they're just saying that to kind of just say it, right, and have a conversation. So, I mean, I don't know if there's really a way to separate that other than our relationships or our industry is built on relationships.
It really is.
And so for me, that's really what I take out of these conferences. I want to get to know somebody and I want to build relationships. Like, I don't know when we first met. How many years ago was it now?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think where that was.
Maybe 2.5 years?
2.5, probably 3 years ago, somewhere in that neighborhood. I guess it would have been, I don't know if it was at a local Dallas show or if it was one that I was at somewhere else. Yeah,
I think it was. But I am not a salesy person. I don't pitch anything about FBS. I think our reputation speaks for itself. People know who we are. We do a lot of, presentations throughout the country and just kind of educate individuals. So for me, everything is just based off relationships. I want to get to know those individuals and I have touch points with them. So I'll reach back out to them and just check in and see how they're doing. That's a lot of what I'm doing with these conferences.
And I think that that's important, especially when we're looking at a services industry, right? So whether you're a public adjuster, whether you're an engineer, or whether, you could be a mobile detail guy. Which I need one. You know what I'm saying? So
I'll let you know if I find one.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But please share that information. It is built around networking. And 100%. I am 1000% about networking. One of my favorite things I do on Thursdays and Fridays, right, is I go to my networking meetings. I think that they're outstanding. And yes, there are going to be people around that you never have a prayer of doing business with, but I realize I'm not going after them. I'm going after everybody they know. And I think that that's a big portion of it, is that you build off of referrals. How have you used those relationships and those opportunities to establish like a strong referral network? Because as a public adjuster, that's all I do. I tell people all the time, I'm like Hitch. I love that. I work on referrals only. There's no advertisements. I don't even have a Google My Business, and I've got people rolling over right now just dying that I don't have a Google My Business. It's like I don't need it.
That's great. You're very fortunate for that, and I think that's important. But for us, a lot of our stuff is built off trust, and I think when we go to a conference and we build this network of individuals that we talk to, one of the things that I always tell people, as I said, if you ever need anything, just call me, right? I will have my experts review your case and just take a look at it. And I think so that referral network that we have, people just want to trust that someone is going to be honest. There are a lot of people in this industry that do not do the right thing, right? They want to overinflate things and, or they just underinflate because they don't even know what the damage is. So for us, if I have somebody that I can call in the industry for just, feedback, like with you, hey, do you know somebody that can do auto claims or whatever? I want to be someone that people can call and trust. So when someone sends us a file, I'm going to tell them, hey, my experts looked at this. It's not great. Like I just, it's not worth it. We're not going to take it because the damage isn't there, or the date of loss is wrong, or whatever it may be. And I think if you can build trust with your network, people they want to have your information. They want to know your phone number, and they'll come to you with other things. So, I mean, just today, an attorney called me and said, you came highly recommended in this industry because of the integrity of your company, because we just want to start using you. We've had some bad experiences. So I see that a lot. We've been around for many, many years. The owner of our company has been doing this 45 years. Our company was founded in 2004, but that speaks a lot of volume too.
Yeah, especially in this industry where you've got people that I mean, it is a revolving door, and like this year, I would say this, and this is really sort of immaterial, but you see that this is what we would call a slow year, right? I mean, we haven't had any major hurricane hit the United States. A shout out to the good people of Jamaica that I'm sure are cleaning up one heck of a mess right now. There are times when I realize that even when this stuff happens, like to the United States, I mean, we've had a steady flow of hurricanes year after year after year. To have a break this year doesn't bother me a little bit. I'm not in the least bit worried about it. Frankly, I could use the break. Yeah. And I don't even work a lot of hurricanes. We had a rather slow hail year as well. Yeah. But it's never really 12 months of silence.
No.
It's rarely 12 months of silence, and we're kind of coming up on that.
Well, and I think the other thing too, when you have these slower moments, you can kind of specialize and you get your training and learn and get educated and build your network. Like you have your networking thing that you're doing during the week, right?
I love it.
Those are different types of things that we can do in this industry if it's slower, right? Know your network, know people, and get to know people. I mean, my family has a running joke that I'm going to make a friend everywhere I go. Go to Target, I'm at the hotel and I'm like talking to everyone. I was talking to a software engineer yesterday, but it's not being afraid of just kind of sometimes being vulnerable a little bit.
Right.
Like, hey, this is my experience,
I think one of the things people have a hard time with, especially in an overwhelming situation like a networking room, don't threaten me with a good time. I mean, all I need is somebody to talk to. My mom would tell you that I could talk a truck driver out of his French fries because I did it at 5 years old. True story.
Wow. That's interesting.
Absolutely. It's a great story. I'll tell it sometime. But that's always been easy for me. But there's a lot of introverted people out there that kind of room would just absolutely overwhelm. You know what I mean? And a lot of the guys that are doing, in order to be good at this, you kind of have to have sort of like a multiple personalities. And I don't mean like a condition or a disorder, like not that. I mean, well, it might help. I'm not going to say that it wouldn't help, but you kind of have to kind of fit into all of these sort of roles because marketing has changed, especially with the onset of the internet and Web 2 technology and how we have begun to communicate via the web. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you actually had a product line that you represented online. How long ago was that, and what was the brand? If you want to divulge that.
Gosh, okay. So I started working for, I don't know if I should say this, but an MLM. And it was LuLaRoe.
Yeah, there's a documentary on, I think it's on Netflix.
I'm
not sure.
I think it is. So that was a very interesting experience. I remember going up to my husband and saying, hey, I really want to do this. What do you think? And he goes, if you can do it and come up with the funds on your own, sure, give it a try. So I remember getting a credit card, ordering my first big package of LuLaRoe, because you don't really get a pick. You just have a package of like this, or this. And getting my first package in and taking a picture of those boxes and going, okay, people, we're going live. And so I would just sell on Facebook. And, at the time I was working for a realtor doing some marketing. I nannied newborn twins for a little while while doing LuLaRoe and getting my degree and doing all of these things. So I don't really sit still very often. I don't know if you've noticed that about me, but so I would go online and I would just hold up the clothing and say, okay, number 101, if you want it, please let me know. And so
Yeah.
then you ship it and.
Which is normal now. How long ago was that?
So LuLaRoe had a change in how they operated, and I don't recall how many years ago it was now. I lived in Hugo, Minnesota at the time. So I want to say it was 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay.
No, it was longer than that. It must have been 8 years ago.
8 years ago?
8 years
Okay.
ago. Because I've been with the company now 6.
That matters. That matters because back then we were still taking pictures of our food and fuzzy socks, right?
Yeah.
And that's what was going on Instagram. And things have really changed into sort of the marketing machine that social media has become, you know? So,
well, and I will tell you, do you know how humiliating it is to go live on Facebook and you have no viewers and you're trying to sell something and like you have to figure it out? Like, I think all of my fears in life about being judged went out the window at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you going to do? You're just, hey, does anybody want to see anything? And you have no one going on live. Like, no one's live with you. And you're like, yep, I'm just going to go through this whole rack of clothing here. Let me know if you want anything.
And hope they watch it later.
Yeah. Yes. Eventually I had a lot of followers, but my husband actually joined me for a while. And it became this back and forth story of us online selling this stuff back and forth. And I would get so ticked at him because he would always eat cereal live when we were live. And he's like the most loud. He's so loud when it comes to eating cereal. I was like, can you not do that? So people would go and we'd banter back and forth and people would be like,
they'd love
Jeremy, get some cereal. My husband's name is Jeremy, by the way. So
yeah, not just me. It's not me, y'all. It's not me. Yeah.
But anyway, so it was a very interesting experience for sure. And I wouldn't take it back. I taught a lot.
Well, you don't so like right now, you're not doing like a lot of social media efforts like with FBS at all.
No.
So, I mean, kind of tell me a little bit about how you cultivate and drag in business, sort of what you're doing. You travel all the time and you're a mom and all of that. So how do you, everybody asks this question, right?
Yeah.
How do you balance being a mom with all of this stuff? And so I don't want to ask it in a trite sort of tone.
Right.
I really kind of want to know what that looks like. My mom traveled. So, I understand a lot of it.
It's really difficult. I'll say it's really difficult. I have seasons where I travel a lot more. I think you know that. Like the conferences, Q1 of the year is always shot. Like I'm always out.
Right.
Holiday season, it's usually slower. I really try to balance it by being more intentional with my family when I'm at home. So this last weekend while I was at home, I took each of my daughters out for a little mom-daughter date, just to Target and buy a, $10 coffee and do all of that.
$10 coffee.
Yeah, apparently that's what their love language is, Starbucks. So it's fine, and Target. But it's finding that balance between making those moments work and then, just coming back to the table and just trying to remember that sometimes I need me time. Like that's been the hardest thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm not good at just saying I need a break and I'm burnt out, right? So that's been probably the biggest struggle that I've had. But as far as the balance, it's day to day.
I think for me, running a business, right? I wear lots of hats.
Same here.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think anybody that's working in the society in the United States of America today has got to function with multiple hats. I mean, it's just the way that it
100%.
goes. And there's books written about work-life balance and how you do this and the 4-hour work week. And I am not downplaying any of those really good perspectives, right? The thing is none of it, I think for me, it just doesn't occur to me to take a break, right? Because it is, tomorrow is just like today in some kind of way. And I think that there is a unwritten rule that you strive to be better. And I think our culture drives us to have more, like if less is more, just think about how much more is.
Right.
Right. And I think that that's sort of the driving force behind where we are. And I think it comes out of a scarcity mindset. Right. And I think your sort of profession and what you're selling right now is a scarce sort of market. It's a scarce market. It's not just a scarce product. It's a scarce product too, because you're crossing your fingers that whoever it is I'm going to hire is absolutely going to be good at what we need here.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So how do you balance that from obviously not a whole lot of you out there, right, that is going to be on this side of things, because it is hard to cultivate that business because you're dealing with policyholders that have a limited funding, whereas if you're going to build an engineering firm and go after $142 billion organizations as your primary source of clientele and revenue, you know, that's a different fight entirely. That corporate sales versus this grassroots effort. I mean, is it just conferences? Is it, I mean, do you have Monday mornings where you go, I've got to make a bunch of client calls? What's that look like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for us, you know, again, I reach out to individuals as much as we can. We're very blessed and fortunate right now that we sometimes turn work away, which is I mean, I don't want to downplay any of that, because here's the thing, a lot of people don't have that situation. So we're very fortunate with that. I think for us, I do try to set some time and be intentional to say, okay, you know, I'm going to be home this week. So I'm going to I'm going to work with my marketing team, and I'm going to make sure we have our social media stuff ready. I'm going to make sure we have an article ready to do a constant contact blast once a quarter. You know, so there are things that we kind of target and do. And then, you know, we track things like the weather. So we have a meteorologist on staff. Show me the big events that happen, and I can kind of anticipate I'm going to get really busy around this time in this area, right? So I think it's just making sure that you're doing that. One of the things that we believe in at the company is intent-based leadership training. So all of us have been through that, and it's setting time aside for the work that you're trying to do, whether it's red work, blue work, or just, you know, is it creative work? Is it kind of the stuff you have to do that you don't really want to do? So I'm so thankful for our team. Our admin team is phenomenal, and they really help me like set the schedule as well.
Right.
So if I'm like, hey, I'm on a plane, don't set things up, they put that stuff in my calendar for me to help, because I couldn't do it without my team.
So you have people behind the scenes.
People behind the scenes that are constantly helping and making sure that things are running smoothly.
I think that's an interesting point, right?
Yeah.
Is that it's something that I've struggled with, right? It's not that I don't want help. It's that I don't know how to ask for it. Like, not can you help me?
Right.
Right. It's like, because most people will go, sure, what do you need? Right. I mean, that's the response that you get. And then you go, I don't have an answer to that question. Right. I need you to just know what I need. And I think as I am struggling through that personally, that can be, I think that's the importance of setting up a process, because if you can't tell people 100%. What you need, you realize you're devoid of a process.
And I think early on, when I became part of this industry, I realized, like, I was wearing so many hats, and I realized I couldn't do it all. And everybody was calling me for things that they needed. And I was like, realistically, that's not going to work. I'm just going to burn out. It's not going to work. How do we do this? And the one thing that kind of saved me is realizing, if I'm going to spend time to train somebody, like, that takes more time than just doing it yourself. And it's frustrating. It's a really frustrating feeling. But I knew that if I could go in and say, all right, I'm going to spend, 8 hours training this individual on how to do this and the process of this, I know that they may come back to me next week with a question, and maybe the following week, but then eventually they're just going to run with it, and they're going to make it their own and do their own thing.
Right.
And so it was really retraining my brain that other people can do this, and letting people just kind of in and trusting them.
Yeah, because responsibility breeds micromanagerial behavior, right? An over sense of responsibility and that's where I struggle. It's not that I don't want help or that I don't think somebody else can do it. Is that I assume that they're not going to do it like I would do it, right?
It's hard. You got to let people fail sometimes, and that's really hard.
Right.
However, we can't do everything on our own, right? So sometimes what what can we allow others to fail in a little bit, right? For us as our company, obviously our experts, our field team, they can't fail at what they do. And so there's a process for that. But some of the other things, it's like there's a way to train people on how to do things the right way without having to micromanage them, which that's hard. Like I'm a micromanager. I really am. And I don't like
well,
it.
I am too. I don't want to be.
I don't want to be either.
I don't want to be, but yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, it's like pulling hair
And
out
I think
every
it
day
comes out
trying
of a place of responsibility that
Yeah.
I have a reputation and a work product that
Yeah.
needs to be produced, and I can't afford for you to mess this up. And a lot of that is because my time management skills are so bad, right?
Ooh, you got to fix that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so I struggle with the time management.
Yeah,
So by
you
the
fix
time
that.
I'm to the point where I've explained it and we're at, you know,
Yeah.
it's at critical mass at that point in time, and I don't have room for errors. I don't have room to go back and do it again.
Right.
We've got to go with what we
Right.
got to go with, that kind of thing. And that has probably been the biggest struggle for me. And so what are some of the different time management tricks that you use,
love this
especially with lots of hats?
Yeah.
What is it
Yeah.
what's your secret sauce?
I love that question. That's a really good question. I think again, it's just being intentional with the time you have. I don't know if I will ever show you my calendar, but it's pretty bad. Like I literally put things on the calendar, like call so-and-so back on this case or do this. And I really have to just do that. And, you know, I'm also teaching my team right now on certain things. Set a reminder every week so that it becomes part of your routine. I think if you can start doing that and making a routine out of it, it takes you less time to get it done, but also prioritizing things. That's another thing for time management that people forget. You don't have to get everything done in that one day. You can go in and, you know, say, these are the first, you know, items that I have to get done. Now, if I can get them done, then I'll work on the next one and the next level, right? So I do a lot of that, and there's a lot of things I can't get done in one day. So
I think again, I said process earlier, but I really think the word here is routine.
yes,
Some kind of
routine's
routine.
huge.
So that's the way that you work it. And I at a level am pretty vigilant about the routine because that's where I function, right? I function well. When I went to the military, I thought I was going to hate it. Turns out I loved it because it was something that made sense to me.
Yeah.
Please just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, think about it this way, okay? When we're younger, and you know, so my son, he's 17 and he is on the spectrum, and I had to learn with him. He thrives when he has a routine. Okay, he needs that routine and he needs a schedule. He needs to anticipate things that are coming up. And so we just kind of made that something so natural in our house. And it was like, okay, you have chores. Like, here's your chore for today. Here's your chore for tomorrow. You know, you got to wake up. It's going to take you 2 minutes to brush your teeth. You know, give yourself some extra time so that you can make sure you clean off the sink. You know, just basic things like that and just getting them ready. And so I think I've just forced myself into doing that as a normal thing for my life.
Right. Well, so one of the things that I constantly look at is obviously punctuality matters to me.
Yes.
You know, making sure that, and so when there is an appointment, I'm highly effective. And that's where I learned, you know, as I have rectified the time management issue, is I realized things that mattered to me, appointments matter to me. So I began to make things more like appointments where I schedule those things in and make sure that they're getting done. Yeah. Right. That sort of thing. Now, I am a champion procrastinator. A champion procrastinator. Okay. And the problem with that is I can rationalize anything I want to, right? And I can rationalize it in my own head. And I may even say it to you just to get an agreement out of you, and you don't even know what you're agreeing to, right?
Yeah.
I think that has been a struggle of mine. And I realize that when you're establishing these things, you don't establish it because it's easier. You establish it because it works, because it's not easier.
Yeah.
If you're looking for easier, and I think that's where I have fallen down so many times, not to monopolize this conversation, but if I've got a 1-hour project, right, I will spend 3 hours looking for a 30-minute way to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm so thankful that you can admit that and say that out loud, but now you need to fix it. So
Right, yes. And I am. I mean, it is a
Good, good.
process.
Yeah,
And
no, I
you've
hear
got
you.
to lean into the fact that it sucks, right? And it's
Yeah.
okay that it's hard.
Listen, I still procrastinate on certain things I just hate doing. Like, I don't know, certain cleaning in the house, I hate doing it. Like
Right.
baseboards. Gosh, I'd never want to have to clean a baseboard again in my life. So I try to teach my kids to do it, and they're just not great at
I
it.
spent
But
3 hours on Amazon looking for a baseboard cleaner.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
Eventually, I just started hiring
Look
someone
at
that'll
that
do
thing.
this. Yeah, I know. But that's it, right? And so there are things that I still procrastinate on, but I know at the end of the day that I'm going to be really stressed if I procrastinate way too much and things don't get done. Life is too short to be stressed all the time. And I think that's kind of where my motto is. I don't want to be stressed. So if I know I can get something done, I'm just going to try to get it done.
I have this rule. If
Mhm.
it takes less than 2 minutes, just go ahead and do it.
That's a good rule.
Right? If
Well,
it
unless
takes,
you have other things that are higher priority, but
generally most of my priorities that are in, like, if I found out that my kid had been, in a car wreck or something like
Yeah.
that, I'm not going to go, let me take the trash out real quick and I'll
Right.
go check on him.
right,
Right.
drop what
You know
you're
what I mean?
doing and go.
So because what we have to do is learn to separate the difference between important and urgent.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
importance comes from the inside, whereas urgency is something that's an outside factor.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
Most of the time when something becomes urgent is because you have gotten some news or something has happened that has monopolized or taking over your attention or focus to deal with that thing in that moment. And what a lot of procrastinators live is they live in the urgent. They're constantly stomping on fires
Yeah.
or spinning whatever plate or whatever the case may be. And it is exhausting. And you
Very
never really
exhausting.
know where you are.
No. Yeah, and that's not the type of life I want. And I think I realized when I was going through and doing college online with young kids at home, I was doing the max I could for credits. And so I was like, it's cheap because then you're not paying for your credits, right? Your classes were free. So I would sit and procrastinate on all of my assignments, and I would do 4 or 5 papers sometimes at night. So like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, I'd finally get done. That sucks when you're raising little kids.
Mhm.
You're tired, and so I had to learn the hard way that I couldn't do that anymore.
If you have little kids, you don't have to go to college to be tired, though.
Right. I was already tired. I was
Yeah,
already tired, and having kids running around, like, good luck doing a paper, writing a paper on anything, especially like, HR papers like diversity and, accounting classes. Oh gosh, that was the worst. Please never make me do that again. I would never do an accounting class again. And I'm so sorry for all the business interruption people that we have in this industry because bless them. They're amazing.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't do it.
That is a forensic science effort. I mean, what goes into that is just, God bless those people because, I mean, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
there is no way. I turn into a donut. I just glaze over, right?
Yeah.
I cannot stand that. I don't have the patience for it.
Right. And
I
we
don't
all
have
have
the
our
patience for
strengths. So I think, being able to, another thing that helps us is being able to utilize the right people for the right things, and assessing like your team. So, you build a team, you assess your team for their strengths and like someone could do this and someone could do this. I don't have to keep this on my plate because I know I have someone really good here. And that's helped me a ton. I have a team who, they'll call me and say, I want to take this off your plate now. Like, what are you still doing that you shouldn't be doing?
Right.
And that's a very freeing thing.
Sure.
So like I said, to go back to my team, they're phenomenal and they just get it. So I have to really delegate a lot.
So with all of the different marketing avenues that are out there, whether it's social media, whether it's networking events, whether it's conferences and that kind of thing, what would you say is your core effort?
I love conferences. I think that's my favorite. You see a lot of people, and sometimes it's the same people, but you build your relationships, and you learn to you learn who they are, and I genuinely like being around people in this industry. It's fun for me. So when I go to a conference, usually someone will text me, "Hey, when are you going to be here? Let's go have fun and do something great." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's great." So you kind of build your network that way. But one of the efforts that I've been trying to do lately, if I see somebody I don't know and they seem new, I will go and introduce myself. and try to bring them in.
What
and
icebreaker
introduce
would
them
you
to people.
use? I mean, because it's not like picking somebody up in a bar, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not.
So,
So, what are you doing here?
do you have damage often?
Oh, that's great. I'm going to use that one of these days. That's funny.
What's your standard?
What's your standard? What standard do you abide by?
Yeah.
What do your inspections look like? What kind of camera do you use?
I'll show you my inspection if you show me yours.
That's really good. No, I think, honestly, again, I'm not about the sales pitch. I'm about the person. I want to know who they are. So
I think that's
them,
key. Yeah.
I think I ask them who they are, what they're doing, how long have they been in this industry, and how do they get in this industry? I think that's one of the best questions that I've asked people because we all have our own unique story about how we fell into this industry. So how did you get into this industry? Were you, born into it? Which
Drug,
there's a lot.
kicking and screaming.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a lot of people say that, or they've had a bad experience, or they saw someone else go through a bad experience with an insurance claim or something else. So, I think that's my top question for people.
I think that is one of the things I used to when I was I worked for State Farm 20 years ago.
That's
yeah,
right.
well, I worked in the agent's office, and one of the things that I did, I was more of a life and health guy, and State Farm offers what's called variable products, so it's attached to the stock market, and so you had to have a securities license in order to sell and talk about those things, right? And I learned really, really early on sort of that icebreaker. I would sit and I would be talking to an individual, and it's like, so what do you do for a living? And they might say, a school teacher, garbage man. And then the automatic conversational response to kill the awkwardness after they've answered the question, it's like, I am so tired of talking right now. Like, let me put this responsibility on you.
Yeah.
I've held up my end of the table long enough. What do you do? And I would have this response that was, I help garbage men retire rich.
Wow.
And that was sort of my thing, right? That was sort of my end, because it's a chuckle, it's a laugh, but it's also sort of like, yeah, you're going to have something to back that up.
Yeah, I need
and
to
I
hear
dare
more.
you to ask me what that is.
I need to hear more on that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
That
great.
kind of, those little sort of sales tricks. Do you have any sort of like the thing that you explained, you would roll the thing on the ground and get the guy to come pick it up and bring it to you. And it's like, hey.
That was terrible. I'm so
I'd love to
embarrassed
call you,
admit
but
that.
do you have a phone I could call you
can
on?
I see your phone? Are you eligible for an upgrade? That was usually the next comment out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So I don't really know if there's anything per se that's like a special thing other than just be honest. If you can't handle something, if you can't handle a claim or, you're too busy or whatever the situation may be, it's just that honesty piece. People want to be able to reach out and call. Integrity is huge. It's everything. So, for us, again, a lot of our clients we've been working with for many years and they trust us, and that's it.
So one of the things, exactly, right? I mean, when it came down to you and I working together, and we're working a case right now, I'm going to leave sort of the details of the case out of it to protect the client, obviously. But one of the things that came down, because there was a lot of people that were involved in the decision to go with FBS on this particular case, right? Yeah. There was an attorney that was already involved. He had an expert. And I said, let me tell you something. I appreciate that you have an expert, but the expert that I have intimately understands where we're headed on this. And I got to say, just for the audience sake, especially the public adjusters and the contractors out there, is realize when an expert is needed and get one, because you're already compromised. I don't care what your expertise is. You need, at a bare minimum, somebody with the same credentials to corroborate what you're saying, because most of us have a financial interest in the claim, right? And so we've got to separate that financial interest. And when I go approach people in any kind of situation, now obviously I work a lot off of referrals just like you do, but the point is that when you are doing sort of broad marketing, is know who you're talking to. And I think that is that's how you appeal to people, because the economy of the United States, and I really believe the economy of the free world, right, is all based on you making somebody else's life better first. And what an
Sure.
interesting situation to be in, whether it's the claims industry. That is the one thing that we're focusing on, is on people that their life is not what it was,
Mm-hmm.
and they desperately want to get back to where they were.
Right.
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 You know, and we bridge that gap, but understand we are a bridge. We are
Mm-hmm.
not the Lone Ranger. We are
Yep.
not part of the Avengers. I love when what I do is effective, right? You know, but sometimes I'm just a step in the process.
Well, and everybody has a role, right? For us, and I have to tell this, like property management companies will call us too, and they're like, hey, we need a report. And I'm like, okay, you do. However, I'm going to be honest, like we're not advocating and looking at your policy and doing these things for you. We can't do that. We're not adjusters. And we're not going to give you legal advice because we're not attorneys. And so, we have to stay in our lane, just like everybody else needs to stay in their lane. If you're a contractor, like, don't practice adjusting, right?
Right.
So we all need to stay in our lane and know when to call someone else. And I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that I see often, people go into the process of, the claim, and they do repairs really early, which we're supposed to do, right?
Right.
And they don't document it properly. And so when we get brought in and there are patches everywhere, we don't get to see that. And so I always tell people, I'm like, document before you do any repairs so we know what's going on, right? That's very helpful. But
I think that just the general public at large, especially in an insurance claim, and that's just one example of a lot of things that happen throughout the course of the human existence that come up where we don't have any real clue as to what to do next, right? I mean, between the access to information, whether it's watching a YouTube video, do you know what I mean? Versus
I can DIY this now,
right?
right?
Yeah, right. Open heart surgery. Yeah,
Yeah.
I watched a YouTube video.
Know
I
how to do
understand
it.
exactly
Yeah.
how that's laid out.
I can stitch somebody right back up.
Yeah, it looks really easy.
Saw it on a movie once.
Yeah, and golly, and so much of that, the age of information, when it's out there like that, so many people want to try it on their own, and a video on YouTube, and I know, and I'm being hyperbolic on purpose and for effect, you're going to miss a lot of the nuance about your specific case, right? Or whatever it is that's going on. And I think the United States at large, and the way our economy works, is we want that expert advice because I think we're built around it. You know what I'm saying? And we have a lot of regulations, a lot of standards, a lot of laws that exist to protect the individual single member of the body politic that exists out there, that's just a voting guy that's got soccer practice at 6 o'clock, just like you do. That is something that we run into.
Yeah.
And even when it comes to the client, do you find, because the people that hire you, see my air quotes, right? I am the one, I'm not signing your contract. What I'm doing is I'm hand walking a very hot referral into it. And I'm not giving them, okay, I have meetings set up with 47 engineering firms for you to kind of vet and talk to. It's like, no, this is the one. This is how we're going to go. This is what we're going to do. Establishing trust with that client, because they don't know you. They wouldn't even know how to vet you if they tried to vet 47 different engineering firms, right?
Oh gosh. And I've seen this happen so many times where people will bring in experts and the experts don't know what they're doing. And it's a problem in this industry. It has happened more often than not. I've seen modified versions of tests that are done that don't hold up. They're not going to hold up, right?
Right.
And so that's why I go back to saying, know an expert to call. I'm not trying to say like call FBS. I'm trying to say know an expert that you can trust when you're in, a process, just to bounce an idea off of, and just say, hey, do you know, like, is this truly damaged? Is this repairable? We have people call us all the time, and they're like, I'll look at the case, or my experts look at the case, and I'm just like, that's not a good case.
It's just not.
Don't move forward.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it.
I mean, so like, do you necessarily, have you ever been hired to confirm that nothing is needed?
Yeah,
Does that happen?
absolutely.
What does that look like? I mean, what are
Yeah,
some of the different, I'm not saying hired by the carrier because that's typically the one that wants that answer. But
sure.
sometimes what do those situations look like when you have to step in and realize that, hey, part of my counsel to you is that nothing needs to be done,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. So,
Yeah. Well, one of the first things I want to say, so our job is to really just take a look and have the building tell us the story, right? So our
mhm.
clients, we're not advocating for anybody. We're just looking at the building to say what really happened, right? But I think with these cases, like we've been called in on cases where, let's say there's a potential construction defect. Is it really there? Or is it not there?
Yeah, I didn't think about that angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this the latent defect that they say
Yeah.
it is?
Yeah. Or
Right.
is
Yeah.
this truly the right storm or is it not? Did this happen because of this or did this happen because of this? Think about the derecho that hit and the barrel,
Uh-huh.
right? We had a lot of cases like that where we would have to segregate out the damage from this to this. That's a lot of work, and people
Mhm.
don't realize why that's a lot of work. Like you're having to do a lot of analysis and in the field investigation. So,
Well, in Texas is the liability laws in Texas, which sort of inform the liability laws sort of inform kind of how covered perils, uncovered perils, those different things, and how they're separated and segregated,
mhm.
right? How they're segregated and how they're determined. In Texas, if you have an uncovered peril and a covered peril both at work, but they so bleed together, right? You're not going to be able to say there's coverage, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a whole bunch of wind damage in a living room because the window blew out, but then you had floodwaters come in, right, and covered up all of the damage that the wind driven rain
Yeah.
caused, but it's all covered up by the flood. You
Yep.
cannot segregate those damages,
It's
and not
very
being able to
difficult.
segregate them leaves you in a place where it's uncovered. And I think that that's kind of key, being able to hire the scientific
Mhm.
sort of the person that can get to that scientific finding that says this was caused by this and
Mhm.
this was caused by this, and here's why. This is
Yeah.
not an opinion.
And there's a lot of analysis that has to be done. That's why we pivot. We see different things happening in this industry, and one of the things that we feel really strongly on is having a meteorologist on a case. I mean, how many people now have said some of these reports that are out there, they're automated reports. You still have to verify. You can't just say, okay, here's all this report and this is what it is. You have to verify. So we're doing an analysis, or a meteorologist is, on wind and when that happened versus the surge that came in. And so it's something you have to do.
Right. And there's a lot of things that go to work there. Like
Yeah.
the one case that we're working on, just a small detail about it, it is a low pitched, it's not a no pitch, but it's a low pitched metal roof with a parapet wall around it, right?
Hmm.
And what the wind does in those certain situations. See, that's something that I can plausibly understand how
Sure.
it happens in my head,
Sure.
but explaining it from an evidentiary standpoint becomes a whole different tackling dummy.
Yes. And
You
that
know?
that can actually make or break experts, in my opinion,
Sure.
because an expert can explain it, or if they're going into a trial, they have to explain that in a way that everyone else can understand, and that's very challenging.
Uh-huh.
People just don't understand. I mean, our team is constantly, like, I'm sitting there with our team on a day-to-day basis. Like, we're looking at stuff together. I'm in the field with our team sometimes. And I think that kind of changes. And that's part of, sales for me too, is like understanding what's really happening. I didn't know what I was doing 6 years ago. I didn't know this industry existed. But just understanding the science behind it, understanding, how these things happen, why you can repair this or why you can't repair this. That's a really important thing to know, especially in our industry.
Exactly. There are things we do know, right? I mean, there's
Right.
things that there's tests that have been done. There's things
Right.
that we can lean on, that we can stand on, when we're offering services. But most of these things have such a nuance to it. And if it wasn't for this one little hook, this one
Yeah.
little thing, this one, oh, I see here that you reported damage on this, but was it ever repaired?
Mm-hmm.
And because if that wasn't done, that changes the landscape of this entire thing, right?
Absolutely.
And I think realizing and how to communicate, even in a bad news situation, that after our investigation, it has been determined
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to lose,
Yeah.
right? Because of this, right?
I've been through situations like that. I mean, we've had cases where, we're given incorrect information. And when we went and we've done our investigation and we go, something's not right here. And I just, I'm like, this isn't okay. I'm like, we're not moving forward. This makes no sense. Like, clearly you're lying.
Clearly
you're lying. And I have to have those calls sometimes. And so I think that's a whole nother topic for another day.
Well, yeah, sort of. It might be for another day, or it might be for right now, because I think one of the things that I realize when you got to take the business that works for you.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even, again, we're representing the building, but I don't want to work with someone that's not being honest with me, because we have to follow these standards. And if I'm doing, our team is doing an interview with a property manager and they're lying to me or they're lying to our team, there's a huge problem. I'm not going to move forward with that. There's no comfort level to say they're actually telling the truth, right? It's just like if you go in and you look at a date of loss and you're like, there was nothing that happened on that date of loss, clearly something's wrong. You have to just kind of pivot and just say, hey, this isn't right. I'm not moving forward.
I have a million times gone up to a client, and it wasn't that they were trying to cover something up. They just never dreamed in a million years that it mattered.
Yeah.
Right. And I have told them on many times, it's like, have you ever filed an insurance claim on this house for anything ever at all? And don't lie to me, because I will find out.
People get scared. People really get scared because they think there's something that's going to happen to them. And, I have to tell our clients, hey, we follow a standard. You have to let us get access to your property. You have to let us do these things. Otherwise, we can't move forward with your claim.
Yeah, we've got to have a full disclosure.
The inspection. Yeah, we need to know what's going on. And, that has come out later on where, hey, we filed a claim this year. I'm like, we did ask you that question and you said no. Well, I didn't have that information. Okay, well, it changes the dynamic.
Because any dark corner leaves us vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And I think that translates a lot of when we're trying, even as we're trying to acquire clients in the business acquisition of everything. I think reputation matters more than anything else at all, because nobody's buying your service. They're buying you, right? Nobody really cares whether or not I'm a good public adjuster, right? What they care about is whether or not I care about them.
Right.
And that is nearly 100% of the entire transaction is not, can I convince them that, oh, I make carriers do this, and I'm the bulldog you let off the chain, and I'm the muscle behind the hustle, whatever it is that you want to say, right? But at the end of the day, I'm convincing them that I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Right. I'm convincing them that that's who this is. And because I'm involved, this is what you're going to get. Right. And that's really what they want. It's because they're not looking for information about engineering services. They're looking for affirmation about their building.
Right.
That's what they're looking for.
I agree in that.
So, and I think when we tailor those things, that at the end of the day, computers, and as much as AI is a part of what we do, they're not making these choices and these decisions. And we're faced with those decisions. And how do we vet them sort of in a quick fashion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? How do we vet them in a quick fashion? Because while the process can be long, it's a very short sales cycle to whether or not we're going to pull the ripcord with you.
Mm-hmm. It very much is. I mean, some cases, though, I will say that I've had cases that will come to us and sometimes we're not hired for another 6 to 8 months. And that's kind of crazy for me. I'm like, how?
Right.
But they're asking the questions about the case, right? They're like, hey, do you think this is, can you look at the weather? Or can you do this? I need your opinion on this. And so, they're asking us questions, and sometimes they may not hire us right away. But I think the trust factor and them feeling comfortable talking to us is a short cycle, right? Mm-hmm. That's quick. And that people want to know that they can trust you, they can call you, you're going to be available. I mean, I will say this, what I've experienced and what I've heard out there from other, people that we work with, most forensic firms or engineering firms or whatever are not good at calling people back. They're just not good at it, or explaining or having a call, or, I have some clients who ask me, hey, can I get on a meeting with your expert? Absolutely. You don't see that very often, right? That's a big difference.
And so I think it's big that it's like you've got to find the extra mile they want you to go, because I think every client requires their own personal custom extra mile.
Right.
Right. And within that extra mile, you have to remember there are 2 miles of ditches.
Well, think about it this way. One of the things I said, I was not a very good listener in beginning part of my life.
I haven't heard a thing you said the whole time.
But I can listen now, and it doesn't mean I'm going to retain or remember everything you're saying, but I will listen. And so I think that makes a difference, but you're absolutely spot on. Somebody doesn't care as much about that. They just want to talk and they want you to shut your mouth. It doesn't even matter if you listen, right? Some people, I've had, someone told me this at a conference once, and we're sitting at a table, and the end of these conferences, you're tired. Okay, the conference life is different. You're tired. You've been talking
I'm
for
tired when I get there.
hours, right? For hours, you're talking to people, and whether you're going to the bar and having a couple of drinks, or you're listening to all these presentations all day long, and maybe they're not great presentations and they're boring or whatever. Not to be mean, but sometimes they are. But
We're excited when they're not. Let's just leave it at that.
Very much so. That's why I like interaction in presentations, right? Get the audience involved. I remember someone coming up to me, and we're just like sitting at a table, and we just sat there, and like we're sitting on our phones, not really talking. Every once in a while I was like, hey, whatever. And afterwards, they went up to me and they said, that was really nice. Thanks for just not pressuring me and just letting me sit there comfortably. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I was like, cool, works for me. I don't have to do anything.
I have been hired because I'm funny.
Really?
Yeah.
That was the winning.
That was the thing. Just because it somehow I brought a levity to a very dire situation. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. That kind of thing. And I think sometimes, you got to read the tea leaves. Mm-hmm. You've got to figure out or read the room, whatever the case may be.
100%.
You've got to figure out what that extra mile is for them. And I think it's uncovering. I think the trick of uncovering the pain is really and truly what goes on, right? Yeah. That is the secret behind. Have you ever hired a public adjuster before? What did you like about him? What did you not like about it? Mm-hmm. How did you even why do you think you need a public adjuster? Those qualifying questions. What is it that you hope that goes on? And all I get is I'm desperate.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
I don't know what else to do. I'm out of options.
We don't make the best financial decisions when we're desperate. No, right. Gosh, and I think really when you run into the desperate, it's that's the first thing you've got to do is settle down the desperate. Yeah. Right. Because most importantly, that you need to realize is whatever it is that I'm here to talk to you about can be fixed. Mm-hmm. What I need to get you is some peace.
Yeah. You build your network, and that's part of it. Talk to someone early so that you don't get to that desperate stage. One of the other things that I will tell you that's really made a difference, the follow through. People appreciate that. So after there's, we're done with our work, and let's say our report and our estimate are in, the attorney's hands or whatever, I follow up. For the most part, I try to always follow up. Yeah. But that's part of it. And I think I want the feedback to get better.
Right.
Because we always, always want something. And I think there's always something, but again, we pivot, we see market changes, we have to kind of move in every industry. So the follow through is huge. Asking the questions. Hey, did I have a spelling error on a report? Or you know what I mean? Was there anything that, you didn't like or you didn't understand that we could have drilled down a little bit more on? And again, I'm not asking for them to give me feedback, so I'm going to change our report or our findings. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, how was it during our inspection? Were we professional? Did you get enough time with the expert on a call or, something like that, and just following up and asking the questions, because a lot of people, they may ask the question, but they really don't want the answer. I actually want the answer. Yeah, right, yeah. Whether it's good, bad, ugly, I don't care. I want that answer.
Often it's just rhetorical. I'm asking the question as a point that it's the right thing to do at this point in time, and hopefully you give me the answer that I'm looking for. Yeah. So I think that happens a lot of times, So if you gave us one parting piece of advice for all of those people out there trudging it out on airplanes or driving themselves somewhere, that kind of thing, how do you remain positive in the middle of it all, especially when it's slow or you've had your teeth kicked in,
Yeah. It's having a really good support system, whether it's your family, your friends, your team. Having a really good support system is helpful, because there are days where, you get a lot of no's. Mm-hmm. And nobody likes to hear no. right? Nobody
Right.
wants to hear no constantly. But having a good support system and, I think that's the biggest thing is just having that support system, remembering that like this is just a day. There's going to be another option for a yes, or there's going to be another day where the sun's going to shine more, and just keeping that alive.
For those of you that might be looking for an expert at some point in time, obviously we talked a lot about sales today. That was kind of the point of the show. But if you are a public adjuster or contractor, homeowner, policyholder of any kind, property owner, and you just want direction, FBS may not be the one that would take care of it. But FBS does stand for Forensic Building Science. Website, email, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So you can actually go right to our website, forensicbuildingscience.com. We have a client intake on there if they just want us to take a look at a case. My cell phone number, 651-703-3066. Give me a call, text me. We're open to having those conversations and just being there. You can connect on LinkedIn.
Yep. There's lots of ways to get a hold of people if you really want to get a hold of. I gather that. So I just wanted the shortcut. That's all I was looking for. And I just want to encourage everybody that's listening to the sales is not easy, right?
No,
and I think a lot of people want to convince you that it should be easy or that it should be effortless. And obviously there are those sales that happen that way. Yeah. But easy sales happen behind a fast food counter, right? You become an order taker, and that's not sales. I had a good friend of mine tell me it's not a sale till somebody says no. Until then, you're just taking an order. Yeah. But understand that there's a lot of efforts. There's a lot of avenues from social media to networking to presentations to conferences. There's a lot of efforts, and I want to remind you that all of them are viable avenues. You're going to have one that you like better than others, and so find that one. Find that one that you feel like you're comfortable in, but don't neglect the other one. Sales and marketing is not easy. It is constantly changing. What people want changes all the time. So I want to encourage you to stay sharp on that. Obviously, if you have any questions or comments, please drop them down in the comments below. We'll be happy to get those answers. If you have questions for Bridget, we'll get those over to her. And be sure to smash like, hit subscribe, and by all means, own your own story or somebody else will.